It's Slate Night, the Film Fan Podcast. Now, here are your hosts, Corey and Mason.
Hello and welcome to Slate Night, the Film Fan Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Mason Schmidt, here with my best bud, Corey Knudsen.
Ew.
As we get ready to crack some cold ones, already did, and we will talk about movies, as we always do. Today we'll be discussing what films we've seen lately, the new releases that are on the horizon, as well as providing some updates on some physical media releases and the latest notable developments in the world of movies. But first, Corey, it's been a minute. How have you been? And second, what are we drinking today?
Ooh, happy Cinco de Mayo.
Cinco de Mayo. We are actually recording this a day late. Both Corey and I had pretty busy weekends, and we wanted to make sure that we both had time available to us to catch up on some of the big new releases of last week, i.e. the Thunderbolts. I was going to say the Thunderbolts. Also, if you notice a hum in the background of today's video, it is randomly really nice in Minnesota now.
Not as fuck.
Yeah, it's 78, which for other places in the United States, they're like, wow, that's actually pretty tame. For Minnesota, randomly, that gets really hot for us. So sweating in my car is something I don't like to do, and having to can I wear shorts outside yet? Oh no, I need to wear shorts because if I wear jeans, I am fucking moss ass hole, just sweaty, just swamp ass,
just peeling yourself off the chair.
Oh my god, you look down at the chair just to see if you're leaving a sweat mark where your ass crack is, and you're like, I need to wipe that. Damn, people can't know. Anyway, Corey, how have you been?
yeah, it's hot. So, anyways, AC's cooking, so we need that on today. No, we're good. Yeah, today's Cinco de Mayo. I had some Taco Bell 2 nights ago. I got the nuggets from T-Bell. And
that is
pretty
such
good.
A weird thing to me.
They're more of just a plain boneless wing from B-Dubs. Think of that instead of a McDonald's nugget.
I've heard it explained this way before, but it's also only been explained to me by you, so it was you telling me this.
Yeah, they're good. Everyone's like, nuggets from T-Bell, gross. I'm like, what's gross about it? It's just chicken. What's the problem? Well,
I think it's just
good.
the principle of it.
It's fine.
Going to Taco Bell to get chicken nuggets. you have to acknowledge the lunacy of that.
They put chicken in their fucking tacos and other shit, so it's what's the difference?
Yeah, I guess,
fine.
Whatever.
But in celebration of Cinco de Mayo, also we got Modelo Especial, favorite of both of ours. Yeah. So good.
Already won in. Big fan.
You housed yours quick.
So again, we're recording this late. It is a Monday. I came over to Corey's after work. No.
Really?
No.
You're gonna do it on this episode? Really? Episode 27?
No. Actually,
wow.
In relation to my love life, my wife graduated from her graduate program, so she is a doctoral student and will now be going into an externship. So we had a big weekend of celebrating and drinking a lot and going to breweries all throughout Minneapolis, and it was a great weekend, very busy weekend. I unfortunately didn't get to watch a whole lot, but thankfully you and I last night got to sit down and watch the Thunderbolts together. I keep saying the Thunderbolts, even though there's no the.
Yeah, no the. It's got an asterisk, and we
finally found out. And we know what that means now.
We talked about it last week, and we found out what it means.
Yeah, Thunderbolts, directed by Jake Schreier. I've seen Schreier and Schreier, so fuck you if you're mad at me for saying it wrong. I think I covered both bases. But he is a prime writer and director on Beef, as well as the director of a small movie called Robot and Frank.
And Paper Towns.
And Paper Towns, weirdly enough.
I didn't see it.
I didn't either, but it's just an interesting move. His back catalog is kind of all over the place. But Thunderbolts, before we get too far into, you know who's in this movie, you know what it's roughly about. It's basically the MCU's Suicide Squad, but this movie was awesome. I went in I had pretty high expectations. So there was a lot of the, audience first reactions or critical first reactions were coming out, and we're seeing a lot of those reviews, and I think it debuted on Rotten Tomatoes a 95 initially, and it slowly kind of worked its way down. I believe it's sitting in the high 80s, 88 now. And granted, when you hear first reactions are amazing, they're not always for everyone. And
The Flash.
Oh, fuck that movie. Oh my. Anyways, so we had decent expectations and we've heard good things. This was my second time seeing it. I did see it Thursday night, opening night basically, and I loved it. And then we saw it last night with a couple of buddies, so I got to see it for a second time. Corey, what did you think of your first viewing of Thunderbolts?
Yeah, I don't remember if you said it, but spoiler alert, I feel like it's more interesting to get into the specifics of this one.
And there's not a whole lot to spoil, so honestly I would take heed of that spoiler warning. more so than other times when we say that, just because there's not a whole lot to spoil, but some of the things that we will talk about are kind of big, especially with the stuff that's coming out.
In the third act and then post-credit scene stuff. No, I really dug this movie too. I've been excited for this for a while. I thought all the marketing was really good for this movie, so that really just built up my excitement for it. And this is so much more than just Marvel's Suicide Squad. Yeah. And that's kind of the blanket
way
thing.
To just describe it as.
Yeah, if somebody who's not familiar with it kind of needs an explanation. But it's so much more than that. And this movie is very uncharacteristic, like, in the MCU. First of all, it's really, like, two main locations in this movie, which is kind of interesting. There's not really a middle act to this movie. It starts out and you have the Thunderbolt team kind of getting together. They're all trying to kill each other, and then they figure out, like, oh, Valentina set us up, played by Julia Louis-Dreyfus. And then they escape from that place, and then they go on a little road trip, and that's sort of the middle act, I guess. And then they get to New York in the new, the Watchtower, the old Avengers Tower. Which
a lot of that you've seen in the trailer. And you've seen a lot of, like, the bigger moments or aspects of every big moment in the trailer, too, which kind of sucks, but it is really broken down into halves. It's not like a 3-act. It's beginning where they're at, and then them slowly transitioning into New York and getting to, like, that final kind of throwdown, basically.
Yeah, for sure. And I like that. It's kind of refreshing. It's not, like, as far as MCU, like, it's more grounded. Obviously, there's, like, a dude that goes into his dream world, so it's, like, not grounded. But for the MCU, it is. It's not big cosmic stuff, really. But that, I mean, the villain of this movie, want to talk about that for a bit. Sentry, or Bob, or the Void, whatever, whichever form is in.
Mostly the Void.
Mostly the Void. Played by Lewis Pullman, who I thought was great. He was one of the stars of this movie for me, and I'm excited that he's a part of the MCU now. He also played Bob in Top Gun Maverick.
Yeah.
So that's,
he's
the Bob.
The cinematic universe of Bob.
Yeah, love it.
Yeah.
But I really liked his character. I didn't know too much about him going in, but I like his kind of cluelessness at the beginning. He's like, I don't know what happened. Like, I just woke up. I don't
know what's going on.
He's like, I went in for, like, a medical experiment, and I don't know what happened. And then the middle act, I think, is where his character suffers a little bit because Valentina gets him, and she is kind of, like, training him up to be, like, this new Earth's mightiest hero, kind of, like, manufacturing this guy.
The Avengers aren't coming, so we're divulging all of our time and power into making our own superhero that can also be a subject and respond to what we dictate as a threat. So we're going to be in charge of this thing. This god that we just created.
Right. And so in this middle act, he's, like, kind of in the Watchtower, and you see a scene of him, like, kind of honing in his powers, and he, like, breaks a water glass. And then the next time we see him, he's just in the full Sentry suit, the yellow suit.
Yeah.
And that's the part for me that feels like it was fast-tracked a bit, where I'm like, I wanted to see a little bit more of him, like, getting to know his powers. I don't need a super extended thing, but it would have been nice. And then he really fully turns into the Void, and we get New York just getting flattened with shadows, which I love the visual of that. It looks so cool. The sound effect, too. It's just a quick, like, and it's just, it's like, I know Jake Schreier talked about it in interviews, but he based that off the blast shadows of, like, Hiroshima and Nagasaki, of, like, these nuclear blasts and just the what was left of people there, which I love that. That's such a great idea.
That, and to me, it's so effective. And it was, this movie, both stylistically, like, the way it looks, it feels kind of grungier. It does have a very distinct style from the rest of the MCU. And the MCU also gets kind of burdened with, or a lot of, like, main complaints of the MCU movies are the quippiness of the characters, and everyone's making quips, and the MCU humor. There's aspects of that within this, but it's not in the traditional, like, not everyone's making quips. There's a quip every once in a while, and it still feels like an MCU movie, but it's so distinct, and there's a lot of very deep personal work and emotional work being done with the characters, specifically Yelena, played by Florence Pugh. You get a lot of time with her. She is basically the lead of this movie. She is the lead of this team now. And seeing her deal with kind of the repercussions of the horrible things that she's done in her past with the Red Room training for the Black Widow program, as well as just like, hey, I do my job, and then I sit on my phone trying to distract myself from remembering the horrible shit I've done, and then I go back to work. Like, they find a way to make, like, the act of being a superhero very relatable, in the terms of like, yeah, I go home, I sit on my phone, and then I drink, and then I go to work the next day, and I try and act like everything's okay. And there's a lot of good work done within this movie with the characters, which was really refreshing to see superheroes have, which, granted, this is kind of like the B team, but still, superheroes that are questioning like their worth or like what they've dealt with and what they've gone through, and if they're enough or if they've done too many bad things to make them a good person. And I think there's a lot of good development had between Florence Pugh as Yelena. You get a little bit you get very small moments with Red Guardian that I really did enjoy. But yeah, Lewis Pullman and Florence Pugh really do lead this movie. The standout for me being Florence Pugh. Lewis Pullman was great. Do you say the S in Julia Louis-Dreyfus, or is it Julia Louis-Dreyfus?
I think it's Louis.
Okay.
Yeah. Or Elaine, if you want to call her that. That's a lot shorter.
Yeah.
You know? People know.
Yeah. So, I've never been a big fan of this character, Elaine, within the realm of the MCU. She's always kind of shown up, and I'm like, okay, like, I get this is more of like a grounded attempt, and it's very interesting to see this character with, like, the void that is not having Nick Fury really that around in the MCU anymore, but to have an Elaine type where it's like, all right, well, I work for the government, I'm into shady shit, yeah, we want superheroes, but we want them to listen to us and abide to what we say, and just the questionable shit. And I was like, okay, like, this character feels kind of one note. I actually really dug her in this movie. This is, for me, the most I've really enjoyed watching this character, and I was like, I kind of get where you're going for, and it's hard to say that like Void is the villain or if Elaine's the villain. It's kind of a mix of both, but also like no one is like a mustache twirling villain really in this movie.
Yeah.
You kind of go through it with Elaine being kind of the reason why these Thunderbolts have been united, because they're looking to get completely eradicated by her, because she's like, y'all are loose ends, I need you gone because the government's looking into me and I need a crystal clear past. Like, I can't have anything to kind of instill guilt on me, and I can't show that I've been doing bad shit. But I really like that character. I think that the character work throughout this entire movie was great. You do get some of like base level stuff with some of the more jokey characters, and like you don't get a whole lot with Ghost, even though Ghost is awesome in this movie. I preferred Ghost in this than I did in Ant-Man and the Wasp, so I've enjoyed all the character work within this movie, even though not necessarily every single character has their big moment or big emotional thing. There's not really overarching story plot or story threads for each character.
Yeah, I think the strongest element of this movie for me is that it really is just a story about mental health.
Yeah.
Like when you break it down. And I think that works really well with a villain like Sentry or the Void, because going into it, we even talked about last week, like, how are the Thunderbolts going to like take this dude down? And you're like, Dr. Doom's going to show up. That was your prediction. I want to hold you to that.
Yeah. Which he didn't show up, but we got a little tease of something to come with
talk about
Fantastic
that in a bit.
Four. So
you're half right, maybe.
Yeah.
But
I'm zero right at all.
But it you know, I think it's a great combination of that like villain or antagonist of the movie, because I mean, you mentioned it, Yelena is the main character really, and a lot of the emotion is kind of riding on her, and it is just this examination of like regret and depression and loneliness and just loss that you have in her life. Like, she's dealing with the loss of Natasha, and that, and her and Red Guardian, like, you know, haven't really connected since then, so that relationship's a little bit you know, fractured. And I think like, you see at the beginning when Yelena and Bob are talking, and she's like, you just need to push everything down, like, just don't, like, she's kind of joking in the moment, but she's like, it's what she's doing in her life. That's how the movie starts out, where she's like just on the top of the building, like, which she actually jumped off of in like behind the scenes stuff. So that's great. Just like practical stuff that they did. But then you see how that comes around at the end of the movie, and my favorite scene in this movie is in the third act, when the Void is happening and Yelena just walks into the shadow, and she's going through her whole past. You see these dark moments from her life that she's dealing with and embracing, and then she's sitting in the attic with Bob, and it's just him, like, you know, he's seeing his parents arguing when he was a kid, and like that's his dark past that he has to embrace. And they just talk, and she's like, it sucks, but like, I was wrong before. You shouldn't push it down. Like, you have to embrace this. And even though it may not be perfect, you're gonna feel lighter. Yeah. And I think that paired with like how the climax happens of all the Thunderbolts like hugging Bob as he's like trying to beat up another version of himself. He's fighting with himself, but kind of the messaging there of like, you don't need to like destroy your past, you need to embrace your past. And you need to embrace it through people that care about you and to help get you out of that loneliness and to understand your loss and your depression, but chart a path forward through people in your life. So I thought it was just like, that's deeper than a lot of MCU movies in general.
Yeah, there's a lot of, like, even in that scene when Yelena finds Bob towards the end and he's in that, like, attic room, and she starts talking to him, and then you hear and you can see through like a crack in the floorboards of what's actually happening beneath them. And it's, from the sounds of it, it is Bob's mom about to be abused by his dad, but Bob steps in as a young child, and then his mom is like, you always make it worse, like, don't step in, like, you can't do that. And like Yelena walks in and Bob's like, oh, don't worry, it'll be done soon. And it's just like shit like that. It's just like, it's just gutting.
Heartbreaking.
Yeah, so I think that this movie, in a very special way, incorporates some things that we've never seen in the MCU, while also giving us, like, the typical MCU type stuff. And we get that team dynamic. This movie does happen over the course of, like, a day and a half. Like, we meet the team, they're all in the same area at the very, like, that they're about to get incinerated because Elena's like, no more loose ends. They somehow escape. We'll leave some stuff free of spoilers, I guess, so you can kind of watch the movie if you haven't, if you're still sticking around listening to us. And then they move into, getting to New York. And it's all within a day and a half about, which I never had the issue of the rush of the, as Bill as Sentry, or getting him into that role, because you do get a couple of scenes where they're kind of workshopping shit for him, like, and there's paperwork of like, what kind of hairstyle do we want him to have, what kind of suit do we want him to have, and stuff like that. So they kind of plant seeds initially at the beginning. It is still a quick turnaround, but the first time I saw it, it never bothered me, and then you brought it up after we finished watching it last night. I was like, oh yeah, that does kind of happen a bit quick for him to then also hone kind of all of his powers, which there is kind of a semi-climactic fight scene between him and the Thunderbolts, but it's not Bob fighting as Sentry, it's just the Sentry blocking and pushing. Like, he's not, like, amazing at combat. He's just like, nope, you go over there. Nope, I'm going to throw you outside. Nope, you're going against the wall. Like, it's a lot of him just deflecting shit, which was also an awesome scene to watch. I know you weren't too thrilled with the costuming of Sentry, at least, or, like, it's a little too, like, MCU'd.
It's a little hokey. Like, I mean, and I get that that's the point of, like, the government creating this thing that's supposed to be that way. I think I kind of mentioned that little issue I have. I think the main problem I had is with some of those side characters in the Thunderbolts and the team, because you do get such a great arc with Yelena in this movie, and it's so well realized. And I think that, Taskmaster gets fucking capped.
I saw this before seeing it with Corey, and when we were driving to the theater to go watch it together last night, I said, what they do with Taskmaster in this movie is perfect. Chef's kiss. And then, if you haven't seen the movie, she dies within, like, the first 10 seconds of
one
her
line
being
of dialogue.
One line of
shot
dialogue.
in the head.
Shot in the head. I was like, hell yes.
Which I think I figured after the Avengers Doomsday casting and every Thunderbolt is announced except for Olga Kurylenko.
Well, that, and within the trailers even, there's a shot in the trailers of them all in Avengers Tower towards the end, and Taskmaster in, like, one of the earlier trailers is in the background, and then in the later trailers, not there. Yeah. So it's like, what are you guys editing around? Like, are you trying to make me think that she is alive or not?
Yeah. So, what a, like, I think it works fine for this movie, but just between Black Widow and this movie, like, Taskmaster's so cool and just kind of done dirty in there. But regardless, that happens early on in the movie. But the rest of the Thunderbolts, I'm not really going to include Bucky in this because we've gotten so much characterization with him in the MCU. So, like, Ghost, Red Guardian, and then John Walker. I would have loved to have seen in that third act, when Yelena goes through her past, to see a little bit more of that. You get a scene with John Walker with his wife and kid, which I'm like, okay, let's build on this a bit. But I think they all just show up in that attic, and I'm like, this was like a process for Yelena to get there. And I think that would have, like, this movie's a little over 2 hours, so I think they could have added another 10-15 minutes to dive into that a little bit more.
It's 2 hours, and it doesn't, at least for me, on a second viewing, still doesn't feel like 2 hours.
No.
Like, the movie cooks by. It is moving so fast, and I think kind of having that absence of, like, a middle location or a second place for the team to go, you have basically the beginning when they're in that kind of facility, and then the ending when they're in New York. It moves very quickly, and it's paced really well. Sometimes kind of with the Century stuff, maybe a little bit too fast. But and I never had the negative, or I never really had that issue with the movie until you brought it up again, and I was like, oh yeah, it might have been like I get within the movie, and I also really love this line of because they're all in the attic, and then they look at Bucky, and he's like, no, that's good. I have a really great, clear, clean past actually, so mine was a cakewalk. Not verbatim, but that's a good line in the movie, and it was really funny. And I'll say, like, I don't need to see Winter Soldier. I don't need to see Bucky's past, but I think you could have done some really cool stuff with Red Guardian, even if you want to try and incorporate Black Widow into that a little bit more, of just his relationship with Natasha, and maybe he has a regret there. And then Ghost was good in this movie, and I really liked her dynamic with Florence Pugh, Yelena. There isn't a whole lot of emotional connection to Ghost. You don't really know much about her backstory, so I think walking away from this movie, the first time I saw it, I loved it. Not that that's changed. I love this movie, like, outright. I initially put it in my top 10 MCU movies. I put it at number 4. I love this movie. After rewatching it, it's still currently on my ranking sitting around 4. I don't think it's going to go higher than 4. It's going to, if it does drop to maybe, it'll still be within the 4 to 7 slot of my total MCU ranking. I fucking love this movie, but a negative I would have is you don't get the same amount of emotional depth to some of the characters, which you don't have to. I don't need Bucky. But Ghost is such a surface level character. We do get a lot of personality from her, but we don't know much about her past aside from the things that she tells us of, oh, well, I grew up in like this whatever facility, and I was basically just child labor or whatever it was, that she was like a slave basically growing up. It's like, okay, well, we get points of that, but I'd like to see that. Like, let me connect with you more.
And I think the reason for me that issue is a little bit more prominent is because we find out that the asterisk is a placeholder for the title of the New Avengers. This is the New Avengers team.
Yep.
The last scene of this movie, which it's kind of an abrupt ending, which I don't like. I'm fine with it because there's not much else you really need to do at the end. But like Val has a press conference. She's like, these are the New Avengers. And I think because there's like 2 or 3 members of this team that I'm like, I don't know a ton about you. Like, I like you guys, but I don't know a lot about you. But these are the New Avengers.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I want a little bit more there. But then I'm just going to talk about the post-credit scene, too. We flash forward.
We have 2 post-credit scenes. One is immediately after Wheaties box, that joke. It's great. Love David Harbour as Red Guardian. He's so funny. But then the big post-credit scene.
Actually, before we talk about that, I want to mention quick the actual credits. The main credits of the movie, because right after they announce the New Avengers team, they do actually a really smart thing, which is like newspaper articles and magazine covers of like the New Avengers. Like, they're like, who are these people? Like the B-Vengers. They say
it's
in one
almost
thing.
Meta. The way that they're doing it.
Which I like, and I heard that was Kevin Feige who suggested that, which I like that idea because that's kind of what we're all thinking too. We're like,
really? These guys?
Like, is this like...
Actually?
Okay, whatever. But I think that's smart to kind of put that in the movie. But then, yes, we get to the final post-credits scene. We jump forward 14 months, and they're in Avengers. You know, they got the gear, they got the logo, all the stuff. And you get a space crisis, they mention, which... Is it Galactus? Maybe?
Yeah, what?
Is it something?
They're really vague on it, but all right, Space Crisis, there's an issue
cosmic
happening.
threat is out there. And then the ship is coming in, and they got the satellite on it. You see it turns over, you see the Fantastic Four theme plays. It's a great old school post-credits scene of like building off of the movie that you just did. You have your characters there, and you're setting up something and teasing something while also not answering everything. Like, you know, like what is specifically this crisis and like what has happened here. You also get a little bit of like the fracturing of the Avengers too, with Sam Wilson having a different Avengers team. So it's like, who's on that team?
Yeah.
Is it like Doctor Strange and Spider-Man? Like who's there?
Them mentioning that and being like, oh well, Sam Wilson's got the copyright on Avengers, so, and then David Harbour's like, we'll just have a Z at the end of Avengers, so it'll be the Avengers. phases.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, like, whatever. And there's some good jokes to be had there. But I like kind of what you were saying. We haven't had a post-credit scene like this in a long time. At least for, like, this was... Thunderbolts, weirdly enough, was the end of Phase 5, which you and I talked about briefly before recording. Like, holy shit, didn't even really recognize that. Like, I remember early MCU, the phases felt like they mattered more.
1 through 3, it was like, yeah.
Yeah, you knew the definitive, like, breaking point, or, like, beginning and end points to it. Now with, like, Disney Plus and all the TV shows and just the amount of stuff we're getting, it's kind of hard to know when, like, phases concretely begin and end. Not that the phases are, like, the end-all, be-all, or really matter, but it's kind of a good way to make... Whoa. I'm just watching Corey just stumble to try and
Head
fucking
is going crazy on
Modelo, and
also,
it's just all over.
I need to grab a paper
desk.
towel because there's just
Beer everywhere.
Not everywhere. Don't make it seem like I'm a buffoon.
Anyways, but like it's been a while since we've had something in a post-credit scene that really built to something. Since Thanos, we haven't had that really. We had maybe one of them in Shang-Chi, but then that didn't lead anywhere. So I'm excited because this is definitely leading somewhere. The next movie we have coming is Fantastic Four, so whether or not that movie ends with them basically intersecting or connecting with what this post-credit scene is implying, of them coming to our Earth and being like, hey, shit's fucking hit the fan, Doctor Doom's scary, and he looks like Iron Man. It's weird. I don't like it. So it's nice to have something that's just building. And I'm like, wow, we have momentum now.
Momentum. Even with Brave New World earlier this year, we talked about it. I think that... with that movie, it felt like there was a little momentum too. Like at the end, Sam's like, "We need to get the Avengers back together." Yeah. Post-credit scene, leaders like something's coming. So good excitement, good build-up. We got one more movie until an Avengers movie.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
I will say that post-credit scene when fucking Bucky walks out, that dude's got a mane of fucking hair.
He does.
Sebastian Stan's got, which he's bald now, like in real life. So I'm like, are you just wearing a wig? Just a thick-ass mane of hair. Like more stubble than he typically has. I'm like, damn, you look sick as fuck. Like,
it's great seeing Bucky being a OG veteran now. Yeah. Like one of the few Phase 1 people that's still like a main player. Yeah. Like him and Thor, kind of the main dudes. So
and I like how they've kind of used him within the MCU recently. Yeah, you get Falcon Winter Soldier, but also like Governor Barnes or freshman, whatever.
Is he still a congressman?
Congressman, that's what it is. Congressman Barnes. I feel like at this point he's not. He can't be.
Which feels like a weird thing, because like in Brave New World, we talked about it. We're like, oh, he's a congressman. Like, where's that going to go? And then this movie, like, there's an opening scene with him like at a hearing. But
which
then,
is also kind of a funny, one of the better jokes I think in the movie of him just being like, yeah, it's worrying, and we're worried about this worrying time.
Just politicians speak,
and we're worried.
And like I like that, but then Val has a line towards the end of the movie where she's like, "Oh, you're only gonna last like half of your first term." I'm like, is that like her just actually saying that he's only lasted the first term, or like is that her being like, "Oh, you're gonna die," whatever? I don't.
Oh, okay. I never took it that way. I took it more as like, "Oh, you're back to your superhero shit. Well, then this congressman shit is snuffed out. You're done." Yeah. So that's how I took it. But I guess it would make sense for her also to be like, "Well, Sentry's gonna beat the fuck out of you."
Yeah,
because she fully planned on them being dead. And I like, because I remember the first time I saw it, when they all get out of the void, everyone's saved, they look at Elaine, and she's just like really over the top talking on her phone, like, yeah, I have no backup, and no one's here to help me, and Red Guardian's like, I'm gonna fucking kill that woman. And they start walking to her, and she's like, guys, whoa, and then they break through like this apron, basically, of like fallen, like part of a fallen crane, and there's like a curtain that they hide behind, and then she like ambushes them with this press conference. We're like, hey, these are the new Avengers. These are the people I've been working with for the past X amount of time, while you guys were like really worried that I was doing guilty, like weird shit behind the scenes. No, I was actually just assembling the new Avengers. So here they are.
Also, just on that ending, like I think why it feels abrupt a little bit is because there is like that whole thing of reporters standing there. Mm-hmm. But I'm like, 25 seconds ago, you guys were just in the void as well. You guys were all dealing with the worst possible thing of your life. Everybody in this city was. And then 25 seconds later, you guys are, hey, what's... And I'm like, can we have a minute to, like, breathe on this?
Also, I will agree with you. That doesn't make sense then. How the fuck were they there?
How were they set up?
Ready?
Yeah, I'm like... Whoa, this feels really quick.
Them getting out of the void, them all like having their like, oh, we're all okay moment, and then they notice Elaine is like maybe 30 seconds.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of a plot hole of like, how the fuck were you guys all ready to be like, press conference, oh my god.
You don't need a minute to breathe after like probably seeing somebody you love die or like whatever your own personal hell is.
Elaine's reliving her dad being shot.
Yeah, like good lord. I don't know.
I didn't think about that. Yeah,
yeah,
that's fucking crazy.
That's quick. So yeah. Anyways,
the abruptness of the ending, I will say, it feels like a homage almost to the I'm Iron Man thing. So I'm cool with that, and I think it matches the pace of the movie because it flies by, and then it's just and we're done. And I love the last line where like, hey, these are your new Avengers. Yelena walks up, we own you now. Like, you're our bitch now if we're the Avengers.
Yeah.
And you just see that her face, just like, oh, this is good. I like this.
Yeah. No, overall, we both really liked it. I don't think it's in my top 10 MCU, but it certainly is in the upper third, I would say, of my MCU rankings.
And we saw with our buddies Tanner and Aiden, and I think that Tanner was like upper third, he said. Aiden, he said he really liked it too. Yeah. So everyone we saw it with, big fans. It, for me, is in my top 10. It's likely going to bounce around the 5, 6, 7 slot. I love this movie, and it has a great rewatchability. I'll probably end up seeing it for a third time in theaters. But Corey, I know you kind of went on a fucking tizzy this week with watching movies. So what else did you watch?
Nice use of the word tizzy. Before we start, I'm going to close this blind. The sun is just beating on me.
Well, yeah, it is going down. Wow. It is the evening in Minnesota.
Oh, so. I am just sweating over here. I wanted to wait until we were done.
Oh, wow, that is a massive temperature difference.
Yeah. Oh. Good lord.
I'm wearing
AC's
jeans.
Still running. Yeah, you're wearing jeans. You got to be just sticking to the seat.
I am, everything below the belt is a sad subject.
Nice.
Talk about the movies you watch, you fucker.
Don't want me to let you sit with that. So Thunderbolts was the main thing in theaters, but we had a new streaming release this week on Amazon Prime, and that was Another Simple Favor, which is a sequel to A Simple Favor from 2018. Both movies directed by Paul Feig. And I actually enjoyed the first movie a good bit. I remember watching it after you had recommended it to me.
Yeah.
And you were like, it's a good little thriller, and I totally agree. I think it's based on a book, which I haven't read, but a fun little story. Anna Kendrick, Blake Lively, Henry Golding are all very good in the movie. And it's got like just a fun vibe to it, just like a fun thriller that you want to watch. It's not super heavy or serious, so it's a
good like just throwaway makes it sound like it's bad. Throwaway, like it's a popcorn film. Like, it's a good time.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I mean, Anna Kendrick plays Stephanie, who befriends Blake Lively, who plays Emily in the movie. And Emily goes missing, and Stephanie's trying to solve this, what's going on, and while watching her kid and all this stuff. There's a lot of good twists and turns in there. I rewatched it this week, and I don't think it holds up as well on a rewatch, but I do think it is still a fun movie, especially, like, the first half setup and build-up is still really fun. Obviously, like, once you know some of the answers, it's like, it's fine now. But Another Simple Favor did not get a theatrical release, and that you know what, it's probably okay. This one, this one takes
go to theaters unless you're kind of not that great. Like, actually, you can just go straight to streaming.
I mean, obviously, I would love it to be in theaters, but this one is a step down from the first movie. All of the like intrigue and mystery and reveals are not as interesting in this movie. There is just so many laughable moments. I know I told you about it. I don't even like want to get into spoilers for this. It's a lot.
It's not worth it.
There's like the third act climax of the movie. Allison Janney is a new player. She's the aunt of Blake Lively's character, and she has a role. And just the climax of the movie is just laughable, and the dialogue's bad. It doesn't look good. Also, the inciting incident for this movie, at the end of A Simple Favor, spoilers, Blake Lively's character goes to jail. Well, she gets hit by a car and then she goes to jail.
She gets fucking railed by a car and then gets sent to jail.
So she goes to jail, and it's like seemingly for life. But then this movie starts out, and she's out of jail. And she's like, I don't know. And they kind of explain it later, but it's like, this is a bullshit reason. This is just like, you wanted
we needed a second movie to happen.
You needed a reason to get these two characters together again. And Blake Lively's getting married, and then she brings Anna Kendrick along to be her maid of honor. And it's just like, okay, Anna Kendrick just would not be doing this if it weren't for the fucking movie telling her to go do this. With that being said, both actresses are, like, they have good chemistry together, and it's fun to watch their dynamic. So, like, there's more of that in this movie, which is fun. And some of the setup is like, oh, this is kind of cool, and the location's cool, like in Capri, Italy. But like I said, all the reveals and everything, I'm just like, I don't really care about this movie. Like, I'm not really... I'm just not as invested as I was in the first movie, and like I said, a step down. But it's not unwatchable, though. You're laughing for...
Because I'm looking at our show notes.
Yeah.
And you did A Simple Favor, directed by Paul Feig. Bridesmaids, The Heat, Spy. Another Simple Favor, directed by Paul Feig. Ghostbusters, Last Christmas. I just like that you did different movies
I wanted to,
for the same guy.
I want to put all the options in there. Which, Paul Feig, I love Bridesmaids. I love Spy. And
Heat, the first time I saw it, I thought was so funny. It's on a rewatch, I was like, I don't like this.
I don't like that movie. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not funny anymore. Bridesmaids is a classic. And
Yeah.
Spy is kind of slept on because it's
So good.
It's very funny.
Yeah.
It's maybe the best Jason Statham's ever been.
Yeah, he's playing into his archetype, which
And
is
I
fun.
don't mind his Ghostbusters movie. I actually, I remember people really fucking hated it. I was like, that's a fun enough time.
It's fine. Last Christmas is actually kind of a decent little movie.
I didn't know that was by him, so
Yeah.
that was kind
That's
of
fun.
a standout
But
too.
yeah, can't really recommend Another Simple Favor. I mean, the movie looks fine enough, and Paul Feig is a competent director. It's going to be, it's going to look good. So,
Is it worth stream? It's not. It's like free on streaming. Like if you
Yeah,
have
it's Amazon Prime.
It's,
Yeah.
it's free. Is it worth watching? Like at all? Like as someone, when I saw A Simple Favor, I've only seen it once. I was maybe a bottle of wine deep, and I loved it. Had the best time. I feel like honestly the best approach for watching Another Simple Favor, based on how you've explained it, is to be maybe a bottle and a half
yeah,
deep.
if that's the case, like, it's not an awful movie. I'm not going to say that. Like, there's still, like, some interesting things. Anna Kendrick is especially just very likable.
Oh yeah, she's infinitely charming.
Yeah, and she has a scene where she's on, like, a truth serum, and it's actually kind of funny. And not to, like, boil it down to this, but both Anna Kendrick and Blake Lively are just fine as hell. Like...
Okay. You're gonna go there?
I'm just saying, it's just, you know...
No, I felt the same with, like, watching the original one. I was like, damn, like, Anna Kendrick, Blake Lively, Henry Golding. Like, just three models on screen right now, basically. And they're all very competent actors. And
Yeah.
I have, like, this nostalgia with Anna Kendrick, as I'm sure you do, too, just because of, like, Pitch Perfect and just growing up with that movie.
Yeah.
And she's, I feel like, been in my life since I've been alive. I'm like, yeah, I love Anna Kendrick. And... she wasn't in the... I still haven't seen The Accountant 2. She wasn't in it, right? It was just... She was only in the first one.
Yeah, just the first one.
I feel like that's a shame. They probably should have... As someone who hasn't seen the movie, they should have done this.
They want to bring her back for a third one, I've heard, if they
Oh,
do
they're going to
that.
make a trilogy.
Yeah, they want to, I think.
So, this is not to do with really any of the movies coming out, but little behind the scenes. Corey and I's birthdays are both this week. My birthday is May 8th. Corey's is May 9th. I was thinking, like, what movie do I go see in theaters on my birthday? I might end up seeing The Accountant 2, which I know you've seen, and you don't love. So I'm like, that's the only option I can think of. But also, my birthday's on a Thursday. We got beer league softball that day. I'm like, what do I try and do? What am I trying to see? And I'm like, I feel like The Accountant 2 is likely going to be the movie I end up seeing on my birthday, which I don't need to see a great movie on my birthday. Going to the movies is enough of a present enough to see. It's just something in theaters.
There's worse things, I guess.
All right, so that's a glowing recommendation for The Accountant 2 to watch that on my birthday. If you had to pick a movie that's in theaters right now to watch on Friday, not that I don't know if you're necessarily going to be able to see a movie on Friday, but if you were on your birthday, what would you go see?
Like a new movie or just any movie? Like,
Any movie that's in theaters.
Oh, any movie in theaters. I mean, Thunderbolts is up there just to
go
like
re-see
rewatch
it, yeah.
it. But if I was to hold on, I'm gonna look at what's even showing.
There's like The Ugly Stepsister I keep seeing. I believe it's a foreign film, and it's like a kind of a twist on like Cinderella, I think.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll talk about the new releases here in a little bit, but there's not like a ton that I'm just itching to see. So I'd probably say Thunderbolts.
Yeah, go see it
Rewatch
again.
Yeah.
It's worth it. It's a great movie. I'm excited to see it for a third time. While Corey was doing a little bit of a Simple Favor catch up and get ready for another Simple Favor, I decided, fuck that. I'm just gonna watch movies from the 1960s for this week. Starting off with a movie called The Swimmer, which I feel like there's a semen joke in there somewhere.
I think probably just you.
Just what does that mean?
Just probably you would
That I'm-
think that. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, do you think I'm the only one that thought, oh, The Swimmer? It's
Yeah,
about-
I think everyone else was like, "Oh, I'm curious to see what he has to
No,
say
it's
about the
about
swimmer."
cum.
And you're like,
It's about cum.
"Swimmer? I hardly know her."
That is Corey's favorite fucking joke. Any word that ends with the ER, he's just like, what? What?
That's a good joke. It's timeless.
It's timeless.
Yeah.
You use it fucking every day.
All right, okay, quiet.
Anyway, I watched The Swimmer, which was directed by Frank Perry and Sidney Pollack. I went back to kind of look through their filmography. I have no idea of I didn't recognize any single project they worked on prior to this. The film stars Burt Lancaster. I've been on a little bit of a Burt Lancaster kick. Janet Landgard and Janice Rule. The synopsis is pretty simple. It's a man spends a summer day swimming home from one of his friend's house via all of the pools in his quiet suburban neighborhood. So he's just like, he looks down. Damn. He looks down.
Bucky Barnes going by out there?
Yeah. He looks down from his friend's house, and he can kind of chart like a makeshift river of pools to his home. And this movie is based on a famed John Cheever short story that appeared in the New Yorker a while back as in the 60s. But this movie is about just this man swimming home. And I read the short story back in high school. I watched The Swimmer back when I was in high school, and I remember being really intrigued by this movie. I didn't love it when I saw it the first time, but I was really interested because the acting in this is so weird. Oh my god!
Not a boy.
2.5 almost 3 beers deep. Yeah.
Nice.
But the acting in this movie is so interesting because everyone's so jovial and happy in a very off-putting way. And it's just about this man making nice and being kind of just fake nice to people that he knows. He's like, oh hey, you mind if I just jump in your fucking pool and swim across and then say bye and move on? There's an interesting dynamic between Burt Lancaster's character and the rest of the people he's interacting with. But not only that, how Burt Lancaster sees himself versus how the people that he's running into know about, what they know about him. They're like, oh wow, your wife is at home, really happy? Heard you guys were separated and your kids don't really like you. And he's like, no, my kids are at home playing tennis and they're having a good day and I'm gonna swim home and see my wife later. And it's just this descent into this man realizing where his life is versus where he envisions it or thinks it's at. And it's just a crippling movie to watch. It's kind of very quietly somber and weirdly dark. It has a very dark ending. I loved watching this for a second time. So, as I mentioned, I liked it the first time I saw it in high school, but I love this movie now. And I'm not going to go too far into it. I already kind of gave you a brief synopsis, kind of an idea as to where this movie goes in terms of what the underlying messaging and what's going on with the main character. This may be the newest addition to my top 100 favorite films of all time. Wow. I was so blown away by watching this on a rewatch, which I will also say it's not going to be for everyone. It's from the 60s, but it's just a weird attempt at kind of handling this type of subject of a man that's just so out of depth with who he is and where his life's been, and not only that, he's so dissatisfied with where he's at. I watched this movie in bed. My wife was next to me, and she was like, I don't fucking like this at all. And I'm like, hon, Al, I fucking love this movie so much right now. It worked so much better than I anticipated it working. I bought this movie a while ago, or a couple weeks back, and I've been waiting to watch it, and it worked wonderfully for me. So,
right on.
Watch The Swimmer if you want to. If you're intrigued by any aspect of any of the shit I said, then maybe check it out. It might be worth it. You might also hate it, so it might not be for you.
Yeah,
but such a fun watch.
I've been very curious about a lot of Sidney Pollack movies. I haven't seen Tootsie or Out of Africa. Michael Clayton,
shit,
I know he did. So I haven't seen a lot of
stuff.
his
So he has
stuff.
made other shit. Because I've seen Tootsie.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I haven't seen it, so I just a lot of things that I've been meaning to watch, but I just don't really have a background with his stuff.
Also, the movie looks stunning. The just the cinematography of it. It's pretty basic, just suburban backyards of people's pools and it's nice out. It's just really pretty to look at too. It's what a good experience I had with this movie, and I hope that if you do check it out, that you have a similar experience.
Right on. Yeah, can't wait to watch it. I caught up on a movie that you talked about last week, which is Havoc, directed by Gareth Evans. This was another streaming thing. A lot of streaming stuff. Right to Netflix. But this is Gareth Evans' follow-up, kind of action follow-up to The Raid and The Raid 2. You got Tom Hardy in there just being a badass. He's a corrupt cop in a world of corrupt cops. And I really fucked with this movie. I know you didn't really care for it all that much, This one for me, the first half is pretty like a little
Cookie
slow
cutter.
and a little like generic. Like you've seen the corrupt cop doing things and whatever. And there's a lot of different groups trying to get to the same thing, get to the same person. Forrest Whitaker's son is involved in this drug deal that goes wrong, and a lot of different groups are trying to go after him. Tom Hardy's trying to protect him. So it's like, yeah, it's fine stuff at first, and the characters aren't very... Overall, like, the characters aren't really strong in this movie, and the script isn't incredible, which may sound like a big, like, flaw of the movie, but this movie, once it gets into the second half, it really understands what it is, because it's just a fucking awesome action movie.
For what it is, it's pretty good at it.
There are two standout action sequences in this movie. One in a club that, as soon as it started, I'm like, this is what this movie is. Like, this is what I wanted. It's awesome. It's frenetic and like it's chaotic action. It's visceral. It's bloody. And yeah, there's a lot of CGI blood, like you mentioned last week.
Yeah.
I kind of fucked with it. I'm like, you know what?
Whatever.
Sure. It's an action movie. I want some blood. Fuck it. So you get that really good scene, and then you get one at the end of the movie in a cabin where there are just bodies piling up. There's people under the floorboards. There's people getting shot through the neck with harpoons. There are just every weapon you can imagine. I'm like, yeah. And it's Tom Hardy just being a badass, just like fucking doming people in the head. And I'm like, damn. I really enjoy this movie. With the caveat, like I said, that it is, if you like these type of movies where it really is just like straight up, kind of like an 80s action movie.
Yeah.
It's like, you're not getting character depth like we talked about with Thunderbolts. Like, just a fun action movie. And better than a lot of Netflix movies, I will say.
Yeah, that's
For
true. Aside from this, like, I don't watch a lot of like the big release, like straight to streaming stuff. The last one I can think of is Carry On, and I was like pleasantly surprised by that. I think Havoc is kind of on that same kind of tier in terms of quality. I didn't love Havoc. I'm happy that you watched it. I love Tom Hardy. I'm a big fan of Gareth Evans, and we'll talk a little bit more about Gareth Evans' previous works. But this movie it didn't give me more than what I was expecting. But also, this movie's not setting out to really break barriers. It's just, this is a baller, visceral action movie with wild fights. The two big action scenes that you pointed out, the club scene and the cabin scene. The club scene annoyed me because I feel like more so there than throughout the rest of this movie, I saw a lot of blood, like the fake blood splatter, and I was just like, okay. And like, everyone in my head, I was like, everyone knows how to fucking throw down. Like, everyone's just like efficient in terms of fighting, which it is kind of scrappy in aspects, but I'm like, how is everyone holding their own against like gang members? Like, they're all just like being able to like put down anyone. So that always kind of bothered me. But the cabin scene that you highlighted goes hard as fuck.
Yeah.
It is visceral as shit, and just shit is hitting the wall nonstop. And to have a Tom Hardy led action vehicle like this, it's something that's gonna like, I'll probably end up rewatching it down the road. I didn't love it, but I am kind of lukewarm on it. I'm happy that you enjoyed it because it then introduced you more to Gareth Evans' previous works, which
Yeah.
I think are better, but still, Havoc is a worthwhile watch if
Yeah.
you have it on Netflix.
Yeah. So I had never seen The Raid and The Raid 2 before, and I mean, you and everybody else has talked about how they're two of the best action movies of all time. And after watching them, like, you can really feel... I'm glad that Netflix allowed him to have his style come through in Havoc. You can really feel that, just his camera work and everything. Because starting off with The Raid, or The Raid Redemption, as it's known in the States, because
Okay.
the title doesn't really make sense
No.
for the movie. Like, it's not...
Redemption? It's the
For
first
who?
fucking movie. Yeah.
Who's being redeemed? Whatever.
The Raid Redemption fits the Raid 2 better than the
Yeah,
Raid.
100%. So, whatever. Anyways, The Raid 1. This is such a simple movie that I absolutely loved. It is like an hour and 40 minutes. It's a SWAT team going in a building full of criminals. Criminals are fighting them. People die. And it's awesome. Like, that's all this movie is. And it's great. Like, this is, again, like, it's not a super strong, like, character movie. You get a few moments here and there, but, like, the movie's fucking awesome. And I'm happy because the version I watched, it wasn't on any, like, mainstreaming. The version I watched was a dubbed version, which I fucking hate. I wish it would have had subtitle, like, you know, the original language and then subtitles. But thankfully, there's not, like, a ton of dialogue in this movie. It's just fucking incredible action sequences. It's so many, like, Indonesian martial arts, and the thing I appreciate is that they use so many different weapons throughout it. Like, there's a lot of gunplay at the first part when the SWAT team's going in, but then you get like just knife fights and you get machetes. There's a great scene where Iko Uwe, I think that's how you say his name, the main character, he's like behind a wall and a machete goes through on his cheek.
Yes!
And he, like, the guy doesn't know that he's back there. He's like stabbing through the wall to see if somebody's there. And like, he has to get the blood off of the machete before he pulls it out so he doesn't know he's back there. So it's like, it's not always just like this crazy action. Like, there's some like good tense scenes.
There's a lot of good like thought behind the action. Like there's creative things done that you will see in this movie that aren't like prevalent in traditional like American made films, but also just in action movies in general. Like there's an extra step of like, how can we make this special to our movie, but also give you something that you've never seen, something that no one's thinking about. Like, oh wow, a blood trail on a machete or something like that. The action in this movie it's an onslaught of it's just going to bombard you with some of the best shit you've ever seen. And it's like, how do you guys fucking choreograph this?
Yeah, the choreography's insane. And like, the camera work is great too, because a lot of times it just lets you see what's happening because you have so many great actual martial artists doing this stuff, and it looks so good. So I absolutely love this first movie. Like, it just worked for me. It's quick. It knows exactly what it is. And thank you for changing that. I had that the director of Raid 2 was Gavin O'Connor.
No.
We copied some show notes over, so yeah, thank you for that. But so, speaking of the Raid 2, came out 3 years later, and this one for me, I still really enjoyed. I think it's a great action movie, but it is very bloated. It's 2 hours and 20 minutes, and I think especially like the first half of the movie, you know, the main character's going undercover. He's in a prison for a bit. You get a cool prison fight scene out in the mud, which is great. But a lot of the other stuff in the movie, like these kind of rival gangs throughout the city, I enjoyed it. I thought it was good. Like, there's nothing I really disliked about it. But once it gets to the last couple fights, like in a hallway with like a dude with a baseball bat and chick with hammers, that's great. And then a fight in a kitchen, which is just like, it's a bright white kitchen, and anytime somebody like gets a cut, the blood is just splattered, and it's so vibrant because of that. So I really enjoyed it. If I were to rewatch one of these, the Raid the Raid Redemption would be the one I'd go back to. But still really glad that I watch these movies because I love Gareth Evans' style of action, and I hope he keeps doing more action movies.
Yeah, I love both of these movies, and I'm kind of the inverse of you, where I actually prefer the Raid 2. But I will acknowledge and agree, if I'm going to sit down and watch one of these on any given day, it's going to be the Raid Redemption, just because it is such a streamlined story, and it's just balls to the walls with action, and it's awesome action. The Raid 2, it gets a bit more, I don't want to say convoluted because I feel like that makes it more bad. It's a little bit more of a complicated story. It's not just, hey, we're ascending this tower to get to the big boss like in a video game. It's kind of like Godfather meets martial arts, and that's my favorite movie of all time, so being able to see the Raid 2 and just how they developed the story beyond what the first movie had, I was like, oh, I really love where they're going with this. And while saying that, I'll also agree with you. Some of the fights in the Raid 2 do get exhausting. And I kind of felt that also in Havoc. In the first Raid, I never really felt like I think the visceral just like excitement of like, holy shit, what is this movie? This is awesome. It never wore away for me. In the Raid 2, some of the best fights happen towards the end, but then they also go on like 3 minutes extra. I'm like, you have been slashed and dashed and diced with a knife in the thigh near every arm. Like,
chest is open.
How are you fighting still? I'm just like, it pushes it to the cusp of just not being able to believe it. Even though I do still prefer the Raid 2 to the Raid Redemption, I'm happy you saw both. They're fucking awesome movies. So if you are someone that has never watched these movies because they have subtitles, get over it, because subtitles, at least in the Raid Redemption, few and far between, because you're going to see people beat the shit out of each other.
So cool.
It's so awesome.
The last thing I'll say, the Raid Redemption, there's a 2-on-1 fight with like,
oh yeah,
going against kind of one of the main thugs in the movie, and it's just like in this kind of, it starts off as like kind of a torture scene, and then it's in like this block.
Almost like a cell.
Yeah, like a cell block or something, and like it goes on for just a great amount of time. Like, it's really well paced as a fight, and then it ends with a glass bottle, which is just like, ugh, you feel it. I'm like, this is fucking awesome.
That, and one thing that they do with the action in these movies, they'll have these long, drawn-out fights and really impressive fights, but you can see it. Like, I did just say, like, you guys are getting cut to shit, how are you not dying? But they will also show characters, like, huffing and puffing, like, whew, whew, and, like, them having to, like, recollect themselves, which I really appreciate because, like, I didn't feel like I really got that a whole lot in Havoc. But in the first two Raid movies, the action is just chef's kiss. It is perfect. If you like hand-to-hand combat, these movies will sell you on it. It's so fun to watch. It's also just horribly convincing. It's like every punch is landing. Like, this is real. So the brutality of it is definitely something that also acknowledge it gets bloody as fuck.
Yeah. And I also, finally, over 10 years later, get to understand the two guys in The Force Awakens that everyone was like, hey, they're from the Raid.
And then they do nothing with them.
And they're like, Tasu Leech! I never made a deal with Ganja Club. Yeah, the Ganja Club. So now I get that. So
now you know why those two actors are really cool. Even though
I understand.
Don't do dick in Star Wars.
That's fun.
But while, again, Corey was watching through some movies that really relatively like connect to a lot of the stuff that's kind of up and coming out on streaming and in theaters, I, again, went back to the well on another 1960s movie and watched The Italian Job from 1969, directed by Peter Collinson. This is the kind of, not famous, it's famous comic caper movie about stealing gold and little mini Fiats with Michael Caine at the helm at the lead, and Benny Hill as well as Margaret Bly. I have never seen the original 1969 Italian Job up until this week. I grew up, though, on I think it was 2003 with Mark Wahlberg and Edward Norton and Charlize Theron.
Yeah.
Italian Job. I fucking love that movie. And going back, and I don't know if it's because I've grown up with that movie, I have such an attachment to it, and think it's like one of the better remakes that we have. But going back, watching The Italian Job from 1969, it's more apparent that I'm like, wow, the newer one really builds a lot on the bones of this movie, because The Italian Job with Michael Caine, while I did like it, it is really charming. It's a very wildly horny movie. Michael Caine is getting fucking tail nonstop, and it completely baffles me. And that feels mean, but it does. But in this movie, you have kind of like the iconography of the Fiats going through downtown and trying to like disperse, because the plan to steal this gold shipment from the streets of Turin by creating a traffic jam, and you have to try and wire out and figure out a way to get the gold out of the city without people being able to detect it and immediately put the kibosh on everything that's going on. You have these Fiats driving out, and just their escape through the city is something that's like relatively memorable and recognizable, and you get kind of odes to that in the 2003 remake. But I think the 2003 remake does a lot of stuff better than the original Italian Job. In this version, we have Michael Caine as the lead, and you have like 2 or 3 supporting characters that are at the forefront of him planning, but you don't really get to know a lot about his team. It just cuts to him in basically a conference room, like, all right, boys, like this is the thing we're doing. Hey, you're gonna do this. You're the driver. You're cracking the safe. You're crowd control. Like, basically running through, and everyone's calling their shots. Like, this is what you got. This is what you got. And you don't really get to know the personality or really know these people as characters. They're just, oh, this is the person that cracks the safe, and this is the person that drives the red Fiat. All right. In the 2003 one, you get more of the personality of these people of like, oh, hey, like, I'm Seth Green, and I'm just this weird hacker that's just, like, horny for everyone that comes near me. And, like, there's more character behind the 2003 remake, and I really still love that movie. The Italian Job for 1969, to kind of sum it all up, it's a charming movie. It's very of its era. It's really surprisingly horny with Michael Caine just fucking getting tail, which is really odd, because I know him primarily as Alfred Pennyworth from the Dark Knight trilogy, but him just apparently being able to lay pipe a little bit. All right, whatever. You get some cool things with the escape of the initial heist as they steal this gold. And I will say the ending of the 1969 Italian Job is really fun and cool and somewhat ambiguous. I really dug that aspect of it. But overall, I think that this is a scenario in which the remake from 2003 is better than the original, surpasses it in many ways for me. So, not the 69 version is bad. I think it's worth a watch, especially if you are a fan of the 2003 one. I think maybe go back and revisit the original just to see kind of what the differences are and what similarities they have. But I'm happy I watched it. It's not my favorite 1960s movie with a heist in it, so there's nothing that really is going to call me to rewatch upon it. If I'm ever in the mood to watch The Italian Job, I'm probably going to watch the 2003 version. But
yeah, I haven't seen the 69 one. I do like the Mark Wahlberg one. Feels sort of like Ocean's 11, where like the remake is the kind of more preferred version of this heist movie.
100%.
But going into some TV stuff, we had The Last of Us. And since we're recording on a Monday, we can talk a little bit about 3 and 4. Mainly 3, because you haven't seen 4 yet.
I didn't watch 4 yet.
So we don't want to talk too much about it. But episode 3, the follow-up to the very shocking death of Joel and that whole, the destruction of Jackson from the horde of infected. And I really like this episode. It's a great, just kind of melancholy episode with Ellie, where she's just dealing with his death. She's going through the house and just like looking at his jacket and just like crying and looking at his stuff. Like, it's just small moments like that make this really powerful. And you get a great moment with Tommy sitting by his body, sitting by Joel's body, and he's like, "Give Sarah my love." Like, oh, that's heartbreaking.
Yeah, that's good.
Because like Tommy was there when it happened. Like, that's just the inciting incident of Dee's character's story. And we also get a little bit of an updated logo without Joel standing by Ellie at the end when Last of Us comes up. So this one I really liked. You get kind of the plan for Ellie and Dina to go out to Seattle to find Abby and find the WLF and all that stuff. Episode 4, I won't go into too much, but you get the introduction of Jeffrey Wright as Isaac here, who I really like. He has a great scene in a kitchen in the 4th episode here. You get a great scene underground that goes through like this bus. You're on top of it. You go in it. You go through it. There's infected. You go back on top. It's just a really great kind of exciting sequence. And you get a lot of character work with Ellie and Dina. So really enjoy these 2 episodes. And this has been like 2 very important ones, at least for me, of being like, okay, you killed off my favorite character here. Yeah. Gonna have to do something interesting, and I think they have, and I'm very excited to see the rest of the season.
Yeah, I haven't watched episode 4. I'll likely end up watching that tonight. Just hearing the tidbits that you talked about that specific episode, I'm already more excited about it. I just didn't have time, but episode 3 I did really dig, because it's something that's very different from the game, because in the gameplay, and I think they acknowledge, like Neil Druckmann maybe acknowledges this in like the after the show, like post-show that they do, where in the game when you're playing, you need to be always like consistently building to action. Like, you're going someplace, you're doing something, you're killing someone. Like, you don't really have down moments or down points in a game to really just sit with a character and just understand what they're going through, which episode 3 is just, oh, we're going to spend time with Ellie as she's just fucking grieving. And I really enjoyed a lot of, like, all the stuff that she had in the hospital, of basically her just, like, being, like, Ellie charming, of just lying to the therapist, doing whatever she can to get out of like the hospital, because she's been monitored just for her health and all that stuff, and she's just lying to the therapist, and the therapist,
which, like, I love Catherine O'Hara, by the way. She's not in the game, right? She's a great character. I love her. Yeah, no, she's great, and I like that scene, weirdly enough, there's like a scene at a baseball field where she sits down with Tommy, and she's like, Ellie's a liar. She's gonna lie. And just like her knowing the nature of Ellie and kind of almost being like in the know in terms of like what is to come, essentially. I love the scene with Tommy and Ellie going back and forth too, and Tommy being like, don't tell me what I know about my brother. Like, he was my brother far before he was anything to you. Like, I know this man. And I just think we get good emotional moments with all the characters, and then now we have the plan of going to Seattle and to find the WLF and what's to come with that. So overall, I really love episode 3. It is a little bit of a slower episode, but it's such a necessary episode, especially after just the gut punch of episode 2 of Joel being taken from us, and then like being able to sit with Ellie. I don't know if it was in episode 2 or episode 3. I'm a little removed from it. I think it's in episode 3, where she's like sitting up in the hospital bed just screaming. Yeah. Oh, dude, that fucking hurt to watch. I was like, damn. Like,
People that say she can't carry this show beyond Pedro Pascal leaving because Joel's dead, even though they'll rework this character in throughout with like flashbacks and stuff, I'm sure. That scene alone, I'm like, shut the fuck up. Like, she can lead this. She'll be fine.
Yeah.
And I already love her and Dina's kind of camaraderie and them on this voyage to Seattle. And I'm really weary of where we're going because it's like, oh, fuck, all right.
Yeah. It's in episode 4 a little bit, too, just kind of with Ellie taking on that leadership role. It's even just, like, small things of her being the like front person on the horse, like riding a horse, and Dina riding behind her, when like that was Joel and then Ellie before. So it's just little moments like that where you see her kind of stepping up to be a leader. So really loving this show. Some other TV that we got cooking right now is Andor. We talked about the first 3 episodes last week, which we were kind of lukewarm on. We enjoyed them enough, but we're a little disappointed. I liked episodes 4 through 6 more than the first 3, but I'm still not like raving. I'm not like, oh, this is the best Star Wars I've seen in a long time. I think it's good. I liked the stories a lot more. It feels like every character's story in this one was building towards something a little bit more.
Yeah.
Where like you had Cyril on Gorman, and he's working with the Empire and stuff, but then he's meeting with the kind of rebel group there. I forget their specific name, but he's kind of working with them, but double-crossing him. And then you get Cassian going there, and I loved him just kind of putting on this facade of, being this, like, fashion designer or whatever.
Yeah.
And, like, him just this different personality, kind of doing what Luthen has done.
Sky, that's what it was fucking
right? Yeah. Super cool name.
Very Star Wars name.
Yeah, for sure. So just kind of seeing that, and then you get Bix, who's just really going through it, taking a lot of drugs on Coruscant. But I really like that, though. She's having visions of this doctor that tortured her, and then you get the resolution of her torturing him back and then blowing him up at the end of the 6th episode. And I think, you get Mon Mothma and her husband kind of go to the party, or like the fundraiser or whatever it is at the 6th episode.
It's like gala almost.
Yeah, the gala, and I like that a lot. I think Clea is her name, who's working with Luthen.
Luthen's like,
kind of like right-hand man, right-hand woman, whatever. But she's like trying to get this listening device out of this artifact, and like that's a really good sequence. Like she's bleeding from her hand trying to get this out, and Krennic is standing like 2 feet away, and she's like trying to get it, and she's bleeding, holding this other dude to like block her. Really well thought out sequence. You get a little heist on Gorman, and again, it is just more of like backstabbing and like double crossing, and it's like, well, the Empire knows that the rebels are doing this, so they're gonna do this, so the rebels think this.
Yeah.
But that also goes the other way of like the rebels know the Empire's gonna do this, but if we tell them we know this, then they know that we know, so we have to do this to do that. It's like that's what I love about the show. It's just a lot
of like 4-quadrant chess or 4-level chess.
Yeah. So like just for that aspect, I kind of enjoyed these 3 episodes a little bit more.
Yeah. The first chunk of episodes 1 through 3, felt it felt like a lot of waiting. Like, we're waiting for Cassian to get back to Bix and Brasa. We're waiting for this wedding to happen between Mon Mothma's daughter and whoever the fuck she's marrying, I don't remember. And we're waiting for Andor to sit out and wait out for these 2 bumbling gangs to figure out who's in charge so he can fucking leave. This section of episodes feels more of like we're taking action. It's very much the start, I feel like, of what the rebellion of like this next chunk of episodes and the final chunk of episodes will be. So it was a little bit more engaging. It was easier for me to sit down and watch these, whereas the first week of episodes, I was like, this kind of feels like homework. Like I'm trying to get into this again, and it's not like pulling me in. Whereas this was a little bit more intriguing. I love Cyril and Dedra so much, and Cyril being one of my favorite characters in the show is something I never would have anticipated. One conflict or issue I have with this show is it needs to prove to me why it's fucking called Andor again. The first season, I'm like, all right, I get why this is Andor. This show, at least season 2, feels like it should be called Rebellion. Like, Andor is very much like the 2nd to 3rd most interesting character in the show for me right now. I'd rather watch Luthen and Mon Mothma than Andor. But I do like the stories that are kind of happening. I wasn't surprised by anything that happened. One of the 2 people that's helping on Gorman gets shot that we are supposed to care about, and I was like, yeah, probably figured that. Makes sense. Like, there's nothing that really surprised me, but talking about that gala in episode 6, and Krennic and Mon Mothma just like politely saying like fuck you, basically.
Right.
Like, oh wow, you did this? It's crazy how the fucking Empire is horrible dog shit like terrorists. And Krennic's like, what a fun time we're having. Like, just rolling with it. And he's like, yeah, of course you would think that.
Yeah.
I just like their dialogue. I think it's really well written still. I'm just, again, I like this chunk more than the first chunk of episodes. It's more of just like, where are we going? Because I feel like with the first reactions that came out, everyone kind of highlighted the third week of episodes, the episodes, 7, 8, 9, as being like, that's when it fucking goes. That's when the story is going. And I'm like, while I get that, and I'm excited to see that, I feel like it shouldn't have taken this long to get us to a escalating point or an inciting incident or something that's really interesting to the conflict of the rebellion. I do like seeing Saw Gerrera again.
They're on the base from the sequels. That's kind of cool.
So I'm kind of in on it. I still don't dislike this. It's not. It hasn't reached the heights of Andor season 1. It's still not there yet. So I'm excited to see and eager to see where it goes as someone who's still actively interested in the show and really wondering where it's going. Even though we know that Andor gets fucking capped in Rogue One.
You mentioned one of the people getting shot and Gorman during the heist, which was Cinta. Her and Vel kind of have a little relationship. And there was like a moment there, like after Cinta gets shot, and Vel is talking they're in the getaway vehicle or whatever.
I do like that.
And she's talking to the guy, and he's just like shaken up. He's like, he didn't really mean to do it. Like it was an accident. He got in a fight.
A little scuffle.
Gun went off. And he's just like really broken up about it. She's like, look at me. She's like, this is going to stick with you forever. He's like, this is like skin. It's with you for the rest of your life. Like, you're going to remember this. Yeah. And he just like keeps looking away. She's like, no, look at me. Like, you're going to remember this. Like, you killed somebody. Like, this is a part of you now. And I'm like, that's such a great, just like the darkness of the rebellion.
Yeah.
Of like, not everything is peachy clean like we see in the original trilogy of like the good guys and the bad guys. Yeah. It's really that gray area of like, we have to do shitty things, and you're going to do a lot of awful things in order to achieve greatness and to like overtake this evil in the world.
Well, that, and we get a little bit of that cool like dynamic, almost conflict between Luthen and Andor, where Andor's like, no, Gorman's a lost cause. We shouldn't be looking into this. Like, they're all just going to get wiped out. They're way too like over-eager and underprepared for this. And Luthen's like, that's what we want. Like, it's going to spark a rebellion, regardless of what, like, he's like, you're thinking of the mind of a soldier. I'm thinking in the mind of a leader. We need something to start an uprising. So if you're worried about each individual soldier's lives, then maybe you're not cut out for this shit. But if we're like, hey, look at what happened on Gorman. All these people got fucking wasted because something went awry because of the Empire. That's more likely to start a rebellion than a bunch of, like, soldiers trying to work behind the scenes and nothing gets done. Yeah. So I did really like the dynamic between Luthen and Andor throughout these 3 episodes, and being able to see Luthen and Andor just again on screen together is like, fuck yes.
Oh, it's incredible.
Oh, Skarsgård can do no wrong. None of the Skarsgårds can do any wrong.
Stellan Skarsgård as Luthen has been the highlight of both seasons for me. It's just, he's been great. But speaking of more Star Wars, it was not just Cinco de Mayo today. We had Star Wars Day. It was May 4th, so it's always a fun time, and they're always dropping something on that day. Yesterday they dropped Star Wars Tales of the Underworld, which, if you're not familiar with this kind of little mini series that they've been doing the past few years, they did Tales of the Jedi 2 years ago, Tales of the Empire last year. And really, it's 6-episode little seasons, and they take 3 episodes to tell a story in the Clone Wars style animation of just like a side character. So, we had Dooku in Tales of the Jedi. We had Barriss Offee last season for a couple episodes. This season, we get Cad Bane and Asajj Ventress, 2 of my favorite, like, kind of side characters. I just really love these characters a lot from the Clone Wars show. And I think this is a solid little, just kind of taste of Star Wars, and I think it feels less consequential than like a live action show or a movie, because you can just put out a little 3-episode arc with Asajj Ventress, kind of what she did after we saw her in the Clone Wars, and it's just a little story with her. And then you see Cad Bane, you get more of his history, his backstory, Cad Bane is honestly like top 5 Star Wars characters for me. I love him. I love bounty hunters in general. I think they're just so cool. So I think it doesn't have as much weight to it where you're like, oh, if this doesn't work out, like I'm gonna be devastated that this show didn't work. It's like, yeah, if you like these 3 episodes, it's a good little time. They're like 15 minutes each, so it's super easy to just watch through them, which is what I did yesterday. From these 3 like Empire, Tales of the Jedi, Empire, and Underworld, like not every one of them has worked, but it's also like I got a little bit more flavor of the Star Wars universe in this animation style that I like and is very nostalgic. So I had a good time with it. There's not like too much plot related things to talk about really. It's just story for each of these characters, and it's a nice little like May 4th quick easy watch just to get in the Star Wars mood.
Yeah, a little special occasion release.
Yeah.
I didn't watch any of Tales of the Underworld, but I did actually this past week start Skeleton Crew. Got half to 3/4 of the way through the first episode, and that is enough for me to decide I'm not going to continue watching this show.
Attaboy.
It's just too similar to Earth. Like when they're like a galaxy far, far away. A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, I'm like, why does this look like it's just like 5 years in the future from what we live now? Like I was just so disinterested with how similar it is to our world. I'm like, I don't like this. I'm done. I don't need an Amblin Entertainment Star Wars story. Do something else. Didn't work for me. Also, child actors, you gotta fucking fight uphill to try and win me over because I'm more picky about child actors than I think I am about adult actors, which I don't know what that says about me. Maybe I'm an asshole, but just can't be won over by a child actor trying to act really cool and tough when I'm like, you're 8 years old and you just got your first like set of adult teeth. Settle down. Anyways, so I'm not going to continue on with Skeleton Crew unless I get really drunk or really bored and need some Star Wars, so who knows. But in terms of new releases coming out on Corey's birthday, May 9th, we have a Clown in the Cornfield, which I have not seen a trailer about this movie, but by having our Instagram page, Slate Night Film Fan Podcast page, I've been really inundated with a lot of Clown in the Cornfield coverage, specifically from like Perry Nemiroff and Collider. So I'm already kind of intrigued by this because I've heard so much about it. But it is directed by Eli Craig, who, if you don't know, directed Tucker and Dale vs. Evil, which is one of my favorite horror comedies, and I think it's one of the best at handling both horror and comedy in itself. Starring Katie Douglas and Aaron Abrams, it is about a fading Midwestern town in which Friendo the Clown, a symbol of bygone success, reemerges as a terrifying scourge. I have not seen a trailer. I've seen images. I know a little bit about the cast, and aside from, like I said, our Instagram page and me just seeing it all the time on like our For You page, I'm kind of intrigued by this, and I've heard it kind of goes fucking nuts. So maybe I'll try and see this.
I've heard that like it starts off like the first third or first act kind of is like it's typical stuff, and then it gets really interesting and goes in a cool direction. So I'm curious about that one for sure. Also this week we have Friendship, which is you got Tim Robinson and Paul Rudd, and Tim Robinson is just this suburban dad that is trying to get to know his neighbor. And the trailer has tones that are all over the place, which could work really well in its favor.
The trailer plays like a drama thriller, and then the lines will be like one of the best comedies I've ever seen. I couldn't stop laughing. It's like, those don't add up.
Yeah, so it's like, I hope they, like, I'm sure that they do play into that in the movie.
Yeah.
Because I like Tim Robinson's comedy style. I think he's pretty funny. So I think that could be pretty fun. It also ends, like, I like the last line of the trailer where he's like, heard there's a new Marvel this weekend. Heard that's pretty good. And it just cuts to black.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm actually, of the ones this week, this is the one I'm most curious about.
And I don't know if this is going to wide release quite yet. I think that this might be the limited release in, like, New York and LA. And I think wide release, it goes towards the end of the month in, like, May 23rd. If it's available near us, I'm going to try and fucking see it as soon as possible because I'm really sold on this. Because Tim Robinson, his humor works like 75% of the time for me, but I still think he's really just fun to watch. And I love Paul Rudd, and the trailer is interesting, to say the least. Fight or Flight is also coming out, a movie I don't think I've ever heard of. Actually, no, I've seen the poster because it has Josh Hartnett in it, but it's directed by James Madigan, also co-starring Katie Sackhoff. A mercenary takes on the job of tracking down a target on a plane, but must protect her when they're surrounded by people trying to kill both of them. Okay, it sounds like a 90s action movie.
Sounds like nonstop.
Sounds like nonstop, kind of, yeah. I've heard like weird rumblings of this being kind of a good, fun movie. So I'm not rushing out to see it. I'm not really anticipating this movie in any sense. Corey, have you heard or seen, or are you interested in this movie at all?
I've seen the trailer on YouTube, like as an ad before some videos.
You just skip ad.
And you know what? I'm here for the Josh Hartnett assance.
I do love Josh
Trap
Hartnett.
and Oppenheimer, and bring him back. He's great. I love him. So this seems like it could be a fine enough little action movie. Kind of the last big one this week is Shadow Force, which...
This movie looks like shit.
Oh, it looks like dog shit.
Which is so crazy to me coming from... when it's directed by Joe Carnahan.
Yeah, and I know I talked about The Gray a couple months ago, which I really like, and The A-Team, which we both have a lot of fun with. You got Kerry Washington, Omar Sy, Mark Strong. It's about an estranged couple with a bounty hunter on their... with a
bounty on their heads.
With a bounty on their heads? Wow, I typed that wrong. They must go on the run with their son to avoid their former employer, a unit of shadow ops that has been sent to kill him. I haven't seen anything about this movie,
Have
but
you
just
seen
look
this
at
trailer.
No, I haven't.
This trailer is laughable. Like, it's offensive how bad it is. And, like, the jokes and the quirks between Kerry Washington and Omar Sy, like, all right, hey, how many bullets you got? And Omar Sy's like, I got 2. And she's like, do you think maybe I should take the gun because I'm a better shot? It's just, like, weird dial. It doesn't work. It's so uncharismatic. It's so flat, and it just feels cheap as shit. It looks like ass. So go see it if you want to.
I could tell from the poster that, there's a couple more interesting options this week, it seems like.
What would you, of these 4, what would you be seeing first? I think you and I would probably rank them the same way.
I'd probably say Friendship, Clown in a Cornfield, Fight or Flight,
Shadow Force. Yep,
yeah,
exactly
so
the same.
nothing like, this week I'm not like, I need to see this in theaters right now. If I get around to seeing one of them, cool. And like you said, Friendship, I think you're right about the limited release, so maybe in a couple weeks we see it. But yeah, coming out physical media-wise this week, neither of us bought anything this week.
We ain't bought shit.
Yeah, a little bit of a dry week.
We're actually we're waiting up because it's, like I said, both of our birthdays, and Corey and I are the two, like, I can buy movies for Corey. Corey can buy movies for me, and there's no one else really in our lives that does that a whole lot. Whenever my wife is like, do you want me to buy this movie? I'm like, I pre-ordered it. Sorry.
Yeah.
Like,
we know, like, the slip covers, the steel books, we're like, we know what we want.
We shop the same
like.
way, and we know what each other likes, so, like, Corey and I are the only person that could shop for the other person in this specific of a way, so I'm really excited. Yeah. But, yeah, nothing this week from either of us.
Yeah, but as far as stuff coming out this week, one that I know you like, The Seed of the Sacred Fig, which you watched
really
for Oscar season last year. Lilo and Stitch 4K coming out before the live-action one, so that's cool. What Lies Beneath? Kind of an underrated Robert Zemeckis movie with Harrison Ford. It's not too bad, actually.
Is that Michelle Pfeiffer?
Yeah, Michelle
too?
Pfeiffer.
Yeah, okay.
I don't love it as a whole, but I think it is like a solid movie.
Yeah.
And then we have In the Heat of the Night 4K. So one of the slower weeks. Next week we'll have a lot of things to talk about as far as physical media goes.
Yeah. In terms of movie news, we had a couple of big trailers drop this past week. We had The Smashing Machine with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and Emily Blunt. We had Weapons, which is, I believe, Zach Cregger?
Yeah.
Zach Cregger's new horror film, which is maybe on par, or it might have the top spot for my favorite movie trailer of the year so far. And then a trailer for one of the most just abortions of a film. Now You See Me, Now You Don't. I didn't watch this trailer. I'm just going to speak on how much I fucking hate this franchise. Just don't. Fucking don't. This is the dumbest, stupidest fucking franchise. It's so fucking dumb. I remember watching the first movie in theaters and being like, wow, are they going to, like, try and, like, put in an explanation to how some of the magic works? Nope, it's just dog shit, and it works for the plot's convenience. That's it. Okay. Oh, Mark Ruffalo's also a part of this, and he's been in on it the whole time. Okay, these movies have a stacked cast, and they're just so horribly B-grade airplane watching bullshit. Like, it's just, you're not going to get anything good out of these. You're just going to watch this movie on an airplane, fucking have a little fucking can of ginger ale and the little Biscoff fucking plain cookies, watch this shitty fucking movie half-assedly because you're like, wow, we're on a plane right now. I need to change my little air vent. Oh, Jesse Eisenberg has shorter hair this time. That's cool. Okay. Yeah. Fuck these movies. Hate them. That's not even like a good rant to suffice how much I fucking hate this movie.
From the trailer, I've only seen the first movie. I haven't seen the second one.
It's worse.
But They seem to be doing the Expendables 3 thing, where they get in like a new crew, and then like the old crew's like kind of there still.
Saying Ronda Rousey's in this?
Yeah, I hope so.
Just Dex one of them.
Yeah, cool. Fuck it. Why not?
Is this your card?
Whatever. As far as the other ones, Smashing Machine. Curious about that. Seen The Rock in a seemingly Oscar baity type movie, so
somewhat
curious about
unrecognizable.
that. Yeah, I got some prosthetics and all that, but the weapons trailer, man, this looks so cool. I honestly even just prefer the teaser that they released of like, it's like 30 seconds, and it's just like the kids running out of their house. Like, it's about it's like 2:17 a.m. These kids just all of a sudden in this neighborhood run out of this house.
All these kids that happen to be in the same class at school.
Yeah, in the same class of Julia Garner's, right?
Yep.
That's her classroom. And like they run out, and just the way that they look of like their arms extended,
outstretched,
and they're all just like running down the street in the dark is terrifying. Josh Brolin's in this. It looks great. I am so fucking excited for this movie.
Weapons has immediately become my most anticipated for the rest of the year. I don't even know, even more so than Superman. I'm more excited to see Weapons.
Wow. Okay.
I'm more excited than Fantastic Four. Like, I can't wait to see Weapons.
Nice.
Just based off of how good Barbarian is, how off the fucking walls that movie goes, and also just this trailer sold me so hard. I can't wait, and I feel like it has the potential to do what very few horror movies do, which is actually scare me.
Yeah.
So I can't fucking wait because the trailer gave me chills.
Yeah. Other little movie news we got. Were you itching for Roadhouse 2?
Nope.
Because we have one.
Nope.
It's coming out.
Nope.
Guy Ritchie stepping into the director's chair, taking over from Doug Liman. Who knows if this will be straight to Prime again or if this will go to theaters. Jake Gyllenhaal's coming back. I actually really enjoyed the original with Patrick Swayze. Like, that's just, it's a very self-aware movie. It's like, it's cheesy, it's fun, I like it. Swayze's great in his prime. What was it, 2 years ago? Roadhouse with Gyllenhaal
and Conor McGregor.
Conor McGregor in there. Like, I really don't care for that movie. It's just like,
Just watch the original.
generic, like, streaming slop.
Yeah.
And I just didn't care for it. This, I'm like, Guy Ritchie's kind of more interesting than Doug Liman, I guess.
Yeah.
So, like, it'll be cool to see what he does. But I'm also just like, just do something else, Guy Ritchie. Do another, like, crime movie.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm somewhat excited to see this more just because of Guy Ritchie's name, because I do. Like, if I don't love all of his movies, I still love Snatch and Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels and the Sherlock Holmes movies.
Gentleman.
The Gentleman and The Man from U.N.C.L.E. Like, he has a pretty good, an effective kill rate in terms of how good his movies are. Roadhouse 2, all right, fine. I didn't need a second one, but when you're announcing that with Guy Ritchie coming into it, I'm like, I think he could do something really cool here, especially after coming off of working with Jake Gyllenhaal in The Covenant. I'm excited to see kind of what he's able to do here. I think it would be so fucking funny if after the stink that Doug Liman did and had about Roadhouse going straight to streaming, if they're like, this one's going to theaters with a different director, which I'm on Doug Liman's side. Put it in theaters, but also it'd be so fucking funny if they're like, Guy Ritchie's doing it, we'll put it in theaters.
Like, what the hell?
What did you guys do? Aside from that, DC, the up-and-coming DC universe is announcing projects. Stuff is in the works, and we're seeing production photos of potentially Lobo and stuff, and all that fun and exciting stuff. We got Superman coming out this year. DC had announced previously that they were potentially working on a Sergeant Rock movie, which is kind of weird to choose in terms of recognizable characters, because I don't know if 9 out of 10 people know who the fuck Sergeant Rock is. I would be one of those 9. But a Sergeant Rock movie coming from Luca Guadagnino, who, yeah, obviously the dude made Queer, so he should make Sergeant Rock. That's going to be a perfect translation. Sergeant Rock movie that had Daniel Craig and Colin Farrell potentially rumored in it, no longer is in development. While I think in the reports they don't outright say that it's not happening at all, it's just, well, with timing and everything and not being able to film when they're anticipating and the delays that would come with that, and Luca Guadagnino now not potentially being available for when they would have to shift the schedule around to, well, it's just kind of halted right now. No longer in development. Whether they come back to it or not, I'm not the most excited for this project, so I don't know if I'd care too much if they came back to it. But if they're like, you know what, we have something great here, we're going to pursue it, it's just going to come out later, faced some delays, then fine, but no longer currently in development at DC Studios.
Yeah, I don't know anything about Sergeant Rock. I couldn't tell
He
you
was
the
in
first thing.
Creature Commandos with... barely. In the flashback with... What is it? Robot. Why can't I think of his name?
G.I. Robot?
G.I. Robot, yeah.
Oh, was he? Okay.
He's in a brief flashback of that.
Oh.
But that is the extent to his appearance in the DC live-action universe.
I don't know
DC
anything about it, so...
universe.
You know what? If they want to do it later, get a solid plan and do it. Cool. So we also have another film remake of Miami Vice coming from Joseph Kosinski, did Top Gun Maverick, Oblivion, which I actually really like. And
I love that movie.
yeah, Tron Legacy is pretty fun.
Pretty solid.
Only the Brave, super underrated movie. That movie's really, really good. And he's also doing F1 this summer. And then being written by Dan Gilroy. So I have not seen the 80s Miami Vice show with Don Johnson. I haven't seen the Michael Mann movie. I don't really know, except for the general vibe of what Miami Vice is. But interesting choice for the movie. Like, I don't know, like, even the story of this. So I'm curious about it, and like I'm down. I'll probably watch the Michael Mann movie before I go see this one.
Yeah.
So
all I know about Miami Vice is that it's just like quintessential, like pinks and blues and whites and teals colors, like that color and that aesthetic in Miami area in the 1980s, and cocaine's a big deal, and there's cops, and there's cocaine, and and there's fast cars, and there's sexy women, and that's all I really know about it. I also haven't seen the Michael Mann movie, which I've kind of surprisingly, I feel like, heard more and more about people like defending that movie in the most recent years. So I'm like, maybe I go back and rewatch it, because I'm a pretty decent big fan of Michael Mann, even though I haven't seen all of his works. But you're gonna pair up Joseph Kosinski, who most recently gave us Top Gun Maverick, and we have F1 coming out soon this year. You're going to pair him up with Dan Gilroy, who made Nightcrawler? Okay, I'm intrigued.
Hell yeah.
This could be about fucking anything. This could be a little pony movie with these two pairing up, and I'd be like interested as fuck. So I'm pretty sold on this. I'm excited to kind of dive into this, because aside from like what I do know about the Miami Vice TV show and the movie from 2003 or 2004, it just makes me think of Grand Theft Auto Vice City. So whatever, I'm happy to kind of just get thrown into that world, whether or not it's a period piece playing into like the 1980s aesthetic, or if it's more of like a modern day thing, is kind of yet to be seen. So I'm excited to see kind of the route that they're going with it. Personally, I'm like, you know what, give me like a little throwback to like 80s and cocaine and
yeah, a little Scarface.
a dude in a white suit with a pink shirt on. That just clean as fuck. So
Don't want that.
yeah, don't even want that. Give me something a little bit more special. Give me a period piece here. I'd be all in on that. Aside from a lot of those big news headlines of the trailers and all, we wanted to talk about box office, which we don't typically touch on unless there's something really special to be talked about, which Thunderbolts, kind of reporting on this on Monday, we do get to see the after effects of Thunderbolts opening weekend in theaters, but it kind of kicked off the summer movie season, and it had a solid opening of $76 million in its domestic debut. The bigger story, and the reason why we want to talk about this more so, is that in second place, Sinners fucking walloped with $33 million in its third weekend of release, down just 28% from its prior outing, which is absurd. But when you take that into account, Sinners originally opened with just over $48 million across more than 3,300 theaters, and which was one of the most, in and of itself, successful true horror openings ever. And then, however, in the second weekend, it barely dropped. It dropped down to $45 million, which is unheard of numbers. In its second weekend, it dropped a total of 6%. Studios will pop bottles if it's like 40 to 50. 50 to 60 is fine. 70, maybe we have a problem. 80, what the fuck went wrong? 6%'s unheard of. A typical box office second weekend, like I said, is 40 to 50%. So for it to drop 6 and now into its third to only go 28, Sinners is cleaning up. And I am so excited about that, because it's not often that we get truly like original IP coming into theaters, and for it to just fucking smack shit down this hard.
Yeah.
So this is exciting, and Corey and I also talking about it going into this week. We wanted to also touch base on kind of what we thought of the summer movie season, looking in, what we're going into in terms of box office, what we think are going to be the biggest earners. So Corey and I independently put together a list with some honorable mentions, but a list of the 10 highest earning films, not giving specific numbers because I'm not smart enough to even foreshadow that. We'll be looking at domestic specifically, but talking about the box office numbers for this upcoming summer, going from the start of the summer, which we're kind of cheating because we have a little bit of a nose on Thunderbolts and knowing what it made opening weekend, but from the first weekend of May to basically the last weekend of August, that is the time period we're looking at. But Corey, how did you want to do this? We want to go through our top 10 of the summer 2025.
Yeah, well, I think first of all, before we announce them, I think like we didn't do it last summer, but 2 summers ago, like 2023, I think we did the same thing, and we did like the loser bought a movie for the person. We want to do that again?
I do that.
All right,
yeah,
rock on. Okay, yeah, like you said, this
is a hard list to make.
This is a lot of like fringe movies that are kind of like could be in those 8, 9, 10 spots. Yeah.
Of like the 10, there was 6 that I'm like, I'm pretty comfortable with where these are at, but then everything else I'm like, I could see an argument for. So it's hard to make like a concrete 10.
Yeah. So I forget like how we did, like I think 2 years ago we did like if it's in your top 10, you get a point for that movie. And then if you get it in the right spot, like if it is the number 1 movie and you had it at 1, you get 2 points. I think because we were like very close on a lot of things, so it helps separate some of that a little bit.
I kind of foresee that happening now, at least not to get too ahead of myself. I'm predicting that we're likely going to have a lot of the same movies on the same list, just in different order. So 1, if you have it on your list. 2, if you have it on your list and also in the right spot, which we're not going to really be able to know 100% until the absolute end of the summer movie season, but
early September we'll revisit it. But
this is an investment.
Yes. So I'm going to run through my top 10 and just kind of breeze through.
I'm going to start highlighting on my list just the ones that we have overlap on, because I feel like it's going to be the majority of
Right on. So number 10, I have F1, which we just mentioned, from Joseph Kosinski. Number 9, I have Elio, Pixar's new movie. Number 8, I have 28 Years Later. Number 7, Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. Number 6, Thunderbolts. 5, Jurassic World Rebirth. 4, The Fantastic Four: First Steps. 3, Superman. 2, Lilo and Stitch. And number 1, How to Train Your Dragon. Which, number 1, I was floating. I'm like, Lilo and Stitch, How to Train Your Dragon. I don't know. But that's what I have right now. We can talk about honorable mentions after you give your list here.
Sorry for all those that can hear me clicking as I'm highlighting literally almost 9. I'm going to say 9 of the 10 fucking movies you listed I have too.
Whoa.
And there's a string of them that we had them the exact same.
Well, goddamn.
10, this might surprise you, and this was just like my dark horse, I don't know. 10, I have Megan 2.0.
Yeah.
9, I have Elio. 8, I have F1. 7, Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. 6, Thunderbolts. 5, I put How to Train Your Dragon. So depending on how well that movie does, that's really going to make or break, I feel like, our predictions. Number 4, I put Superman. Number 3, I put Jurassic World Rebirth. Regardless of how good or bad this movie is, it's going to make money because the Jurassic World movies just fucking ate at the fucking box office, even though the quality of those films completely splintered off from the first one, at least in my opinion. Number 2, Fantastic Four: The First Steps. And then number 1, I have Lilo and Stitch. I think everything that Snow White could have been, which might have been unrealistic because it's a movie from like the 1930s that no one really has that much connection to that's alive now, I think Lilo and Stitch is going to fucking clean up this summer.
Yeah. It is more of like a summer vibey movie too, so like,
And the marketing that they've started to push out with, which they did with the original animated movie, but now having Stitch like, oh, hey, make sure your phone is turned off, or like silence is golden, not this, and Stitch is in the theater doing all this shit. Like,
God, Stitch is a squirrely little bastard.
Stitch is just a squirrely little shit. So I'm really excited. Again, what was the one that you had on your list that wasn't on mine? I had Megan 2.0. You had something else in its. Was
it 28 Years Later?
28 Years Later.
Did you have that on there?
That's in my honorable mentions.
Okay, so I think maybe we'll do like 3 honorable mentions as like kind of a tiebreaker.
Okay. Let me clearly define which ones I'm picking then, because I have a couple. I have 6. Or no, I have 7, so I need to trim it down to 3.
So I listed out, I'm just going to list out a bunch of other ones that are like potentially could be in there, and then I'll get into my honorable mentions. So we've got Karate Kid Legends.
I completely forgot about that movie. Like, holy shit, it's not even on mine.
If that catches on, that could be something. The Naked Gun, Weapons, which we mentioned before, Nobody 2, Final Destination Bloodlines, which is in a couple weeks, and I Know What You Did Last Summer. But the 3 that I did, going from 13 to 11 as kind of my like tiebreakers, 13 is Freakier Friday, which comes out in August. There's typically like an August movie that does fairly well. 12, I did Ballerina. That was pretty close to being on my
That's
list.
my 11.
And then 11, I had Megan 2.0.
Okay, so if you include, I believe, our honorable mentions, you and I have the exact same 13 movies. It's just the way that they fell. So my 13 basically would be Freakier Friday. Number 12 would be 28 Years Later. And then number 11 would be From the World of John Wick, Ballerina.
Okay.
So yeah, not surprised that we have this much overlap. I completely forgot about Karate Kid Legends, which I'm sneakily getting really excited for. I just saw on Corridor Crew they did a special episode with Stuntman Reacts with Ben Wong, who is the lead, the new Karate Kid in this upcoming movie. And I'm like, fuck, you're charming as hell. So I'm kind of sold on it.
Yeah.
I completely forgot about that. I wouldn't be surprised if that made decent money. I could, like, anything of these 13 specifically that you and I highlighted, I'm like, any one of them could be a shocking bust.
Yeah. Or there's one like Sound of Freedom a couple years ago where nobody was talking about that movie and it's top 10. So it's a fun little competition thing, and we'll see. I mean, it'll be a while till we know, but I think we'll keep tracking it throughout the weeks just to see kind of like what the top ones are, and keep it going from there.
You and I had Thunderbolts at number 6. I believe. I'm trying to think of what other...
Mission Impossible, I think we both had at 7.
7, yep. Where did you have F1? Was that 10 for you?
It was 10.
10,
You had Elio at 9?
I had Elio at 9.
Okay, so a few in the same spots there.
Where did you put Lilo and Stitch?
That was number 2.
That was number... Okay, so we both agree it's going to make bank.
Yep.
Fantastic Four, First Steps was my number 2. Jurassic World Rebirth, number 3. Superman 4, and 5 was How to Train Your Dragon, which I know that was your number 1.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It's going to be interesting. There's not like a clear-cut number 1. Like last summer it was like Inside Out 2 or Deadpool was kind of like the one of those is going to be the top one. So
when I first started making this list today, I was like, there's a clear number 1. It's this movie. And then I looked at the rest of the year, I'm like, oh fuck, maybe it's this movie. And then I'm like, I had to give the edge to Lilo and Stitch just because in terms of like family movies and child friendly movies and kid like all that stuff, I'm like between Elio and Lilo and Stitch, those are the two that are really going to carry the weight. If you count How to Train Your Dragon also within that, then maybe that will help carry it. But and also knowing the critical reaction to some of the people that got to see it at CinemaCon, it's like, fuck, this movie could clean up too.
Yeah, the family movies typically do very well in the summer. All the kids are off, so yeah, I think one of us will probably have that top one right. It'll just be a little matter of time before we see it.
I wouldn't be surprised if Jurassic World Rebirth had number 1.
Could.
I have no fucking idea. I'm not the biggest fan of the Jurassic World franchise, so I'm just like, this could make all the money, or it could make like
people love those dinosaurs, man.
Yeah. Well, anyways, it's been a bit of a long one today. We had a lot to talk about. Thank you for sitting down and having some liquor drinks with us for our whatever episode, our Cinco de Mayo special episode, our summer projection episode of Slate Night, the Film Fan Podcast. Be sure to follow us on Instagram and TikTok for more in-depth movie reviews and news. Be sure to go see Thunderbolts in theaters. It's definitely worth your time. Even if you're not a Marvel fan, I think you'd get something out of it. Subscribe to our podcast. In the world of film, it's not just about what happens on screen, but also about who's sitting next to you in the theater.
For Mason and I at Slate Night, that's a wrap.